Good morning. This is VirtualPBX admin training. Do apologize for the slightly late start today. Just want to make sure that the audio is coming through clearly here. All right. The training lasts about an hour and a half, give or take. Uh, Feel free to make use of the YouTube chat feature to ask any questions you have about something as I'm going over it. We do record these trainings, so you can always come back and view the training if you're not able to stay for the whole time. That also allows you to share the training with other staff members who need to be system admins as well, whether immediately or in the future. All right, so now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started here. On your screen, you're seeing the Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. We need 3 pieces of information in order for you to be able to log in. The first is your username. That is your email address, and that should be in all lowercase letters. The password, which is case sensitive and should have been emailed to you. And then the account name. This is whatever you signed up the account name to be with. Typically your organization name could be your own name, right? And that's not case sensitive. Now, if for some reason you're not able to log in, then you're going to want to click down here just above the sign-in bar, which is the forgot your info link. Just flips the box around. All right, we still need the email address. And then we need one of the 2 following pieces of information, right? So either the account name, right? So organization name, or a phone number on the account. And that's one of your customer-facing phone numbers. Then you'll click on the reset password button here. Now this will send you an email. In the body of the email, there will be a link that lets you log in temporarily to change your password. Once you do that, it logs you back out. If you try to navigate away from that page, thinking that you're fully logged in, it will log you back out. So make sure you change that password first and foremost. After you change your password, as I said, it logs you back out. So then you can come here, type in that new password. You also have the option here to click on Remember Me. And then we clicked on Sign In. Now I'm using a test account that I log into on a regular basis. So when I log in, the system takes me here to my dashboard page. If it's your first time logging in, even after that password reset, it takes you to your user account page. Now, you can always get back to your user account page by clicking on your name. So if you look at the top of the page, just to the right of center, you'll see your name and your company name. And if you click on that, boom, big old pop-up comes up. And this is where you could change things like your password. For example, your time zone and language, right, which is with the time zone for their timestamps, obviously, and the language is the language displayed on the web pages for you. Now, as a system admin over on the left, you also have the account level settings. Main thing is typically changes the technical contact or possibly the time zone and language for the entire account. If you need to change the account name, you need to email our billing team. That's billing at virtualpbx.com, just because there's other things they need to sync up on their side. Add-ons. This is a way for your system admins to increase functionality of your account without necessarily upgrading your account or having to speak to our services team. Any of these you can enable, and basically you log out and log back in, and those features will be available to you. Now, some of them may have an additional pop-up when you click enable, saying, hey, this will increase your bill by X amount of dollars. You have to confirm on that box for that feature to actually be turned on. If you go through and there's several features that you want, and they're increasing your bill, you might want to hold off and then talk to our account services team first, just to make sure that it's not more cost effective just to change plans and have the features bundled in. Next up, we have the billing portal. And this link here takes you to the actual billing portal where it asks you for your email address and then sends you a PIN number, right? That's where you would go to view invoices or update your payment information. Lastly, we have the cancel account option. So any system admin can cancel your account. Uh, so that's something to be aware of before you start handing out admin privileges. You click on the cancel account button, follow the on-screen instructions. This will close your account by at the end of your current billing cycle. Right? If you need to close your account immediately, you want to contact our billing team, right? Email them and let them know. Once you're done up here, click close at the top right. You'll be back on our dashboard page. So again, top of the page, just to the right of center, click on your name to get to the user account portal. Most of us, to the right of your name, you have a D&D toggle, right? D&D standing for do not disturb. Right now, it is not enabled, right? Now, if I click on it, it's gonna be white or turn white. And now it's enabled, meaning I'm not taking calls, right? So if I have a phone number directly on my user, for example, calls to that phone number go direct to voicemail. Doesn't ring my devices. Now, if you don't have this next to your name, that means you've been added to as a member of part of the call center or the ACD queues, and that's because the queues and the do not disturb feature do not work well together. And we got the little phone icon here. This opens up a new tab in your browser. It takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. That page does require a login. Fortunately, it just uses your dash login information. And if you have a web phone device added to your user, you can log into that page and use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. Then we got the little chat bubble here. This opens up a new tab and takes you to virtualtext.app. That website has its own login information. This is what you would need, and you would get the login information once you've enabled the virtual text feature on a user. And then you'd get an email with that login information. Little question mark icon. This opens up a chat window within your browser to speak to our support team, right? So you can get some online help without having to call in. The three horizontal line icon, this is the menu icon, sometimes referred to as a hamburger icon. Right, this takes you to other dash features. The vast majority of our training will be here in the dashboard, but we'll touch on these other subjects. And some of them I actually have links in the show notes. And then little arrow icon here to the right, that's the logout of the page. Gonna skip down over this blue bar. Then I've got total users, right? I have 3 people, right? 3 people on my account who make and receive calls. Our plans are generally billed on a per user basis, right? So the more users you have, the higher your bill. Then I have total devices and a breakdown of those devices. First up is a cell phone. You can add a cell phone or a landline phone number as a device on your account, meaning we can send calls to your cell phone, right? So your cell phone will ring, you can pick it up, answer it, handle the call. Now, when we send a call to a phone number like that, you're not able to transfer that call to another user on your account. Right, so once we send it to an outside phone number, that's where it goes. And if you're sending it to like another PBX system, then they would handle transferring on that side of it, but not from your Dash account. All right, then we got the web phone. Again, that Chrome or Firefox. It's web phone is a VoIP device, in case that wasn't clear. Some of our plans, again, have fees associated with VoIP phones. Then we got the soft phone. This is a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, so a VoIP phone. This includes the VirtualPBX soft phone app, as well as any third-party soft phone apps that you may be using. And the other option that we have here is a SIP phone. This is a hardware VoIP phone, right? Usually sits on someone's desk, has an Ethernet cable to get to the network, to your router, and out onto the internet. Beyond that, once it's provisioned, you just pick it up and dial a phone number and make a call out, just like almost any other phone out there. Unregistered devices, I have one. That means I have turned off one of my phones here on my dashboard. Like I basically took it temporarily out of service for whatever reasons. Below that, I have total phone numbers. I have 14 phone numbers. Your plan includes at least some amount of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. Typically, it is one main number and a local number per user, but double check the pricing page to verify what you're offered. So based on that formula, I'm definitely paying an overage per number, and that's an overage per number per month, right? So every month I am paying extra for these for each phone number. I have a breakdown here. First up, assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number is a number in use, right? Someone can dial those numbers and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or send a fax. Spare number, right, counts towards my allotment of phone numbers, but I'm simply not using it right now. Whether I took it out of service because a promotion just ended and I didn't want to get calls on that promotion anymore, or let's say I have a physical storefront and I'm opening another one in a different city, which has a different area code. I can grab that phone number ahead of time so I can start making the market materials and whatnot, but I don't want to put that number in service right away, or at least keep it in service right away, uh, because there's no one there to answer the call, right? Now, I initially, in that kind of scenario, I usually advise customers, put the number like as a main number just to test it, right? Make a call into it, make sure it routes properly, then pull it back at us as a spare number. Right. Then another breakdown here, USD ID and US toll free. US toll free is actually US Canada toll free, right? 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833. USD ID just means a US local phone number, right? So if you have a number in Rochester, New York, USD ID, just as if you have one in Phoenix, Arizona. You can have international phone numbers on your account. If you're interested, you'd want to email our porting team, and that's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a phone number in. They'll let you know if that's possible, and if there are additional requirements, right? And those requirements would come from the country in question, typically some sort of documentation. Conference bridges, I have two. That means I've enabled the conference feature on two of my users, right? So two of my users host or moderate a conference. Now, up to the top right, I can't quite highlight this because it'll uh, cause a page load, but we have my main number box, right? So I have these four main numbers here. They all go to the same part of my system, and they all play the same main greeting, for instance. Down below that, I've got my conference room number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. This is the phone number everyone dials to join a conference, right? Whether they're your staff, your vendors, your clients. Down next up, we have the fax box number. You can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit that fax box to allow for outbound faxing. You don't have to have a fax box number if you don't want to. It's, some industries need it. Many companies don't because they just rely on email. Company directory. There are two links to the right here. The first is CSV, right? Just downloads a file that you can open up with your favorite spreadsheet program. And it shows your staff members with their names, their extension numbers, their email addresses, and their devices. The softphone download link is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop softphone application. When you download the file, then you would upload it to your VirtualPBX softphone on a Mac or Windows PC. It will then show everyone in your company who has the VirtualPBX softphone in your contact list, right? And so you can see who's making use of their softphone or not, right? So who's on a call with their softphone, they'll be red. If they're not on a call with their softphone, they'll be green. Right? So then you can call them. Now, if you have people who have multiple devices on their user, you're not going to be able to tell if they're on those other devices, right? So if my colleague Mike is on his Yealink phone, from my soft phone, I'm not going to be able to know that he's on his Yealink call or Yealink phone. Next up is a virtual PBX store. This will open up a new tab and take you to store.virtualpbx.com. And that's where you can order things like a VoIP phone. And if you order the VoIP phone from us, it comes pre-provisioned. So you basically just have to plug it in and it's ready to go, provided your network is okay. And then down here, we have the account realm. Every account has its own account realm. The account realm is used in a couple things. First, if you're making use of someone else's soft phone application, this is one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to make that soft phone work. We'll get into the other 2 later once we get to the devices. The other thing that the realm is used for is for outbound faxing. It's basically email to fax, and I'll get into that when we get directly into faxing. All right, now we'll go back up to the blue bar. First up, you have this caller ID button here. So I'll click on that. So this pull down, which unfortunately doesn't work on my streaming software, this lets you select one of your main numbers. That main number becomes your default number for, say, your VoIP phones when they make an outbound call. This will be the phone number that shows up when they make that outbound call. Right, you basically select the number you want, click on Save Changes. Hold music, when you click on this button, this allows you to upload a hold music file for all your staff. Now, this is not when a call comes in and rings to your staff member's phone. This is after your staff members have picked up a call on their VoIP phone, right? So they've had an initial like greeting exchange with the person calling in. Then they press the hold button on their VoIP phone. That's when this music file will play. You can upload your own file. You need to select a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte in size. I generally recommend making use of mono files because that gives you a longer duration file. In that instance, for instance, a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes. So you would click on the browse button to find the file on your device, click the up arrow icon, and then click on Save Changes. And then basically any of your staff members who press hold on their VoIP phones will play this file back. Oh, this box here to the right of where it says music on hold, this pull down, this will show you any media files that you already have on the account. Right? So if you've already uploaded a bunch of files somewhere and you want to reuse it, that's how you would make use of a file already on the system. All right. Hours is part of main number. I don't want to get into setting up the main number yet until we have other things on the account set up. So especially for people who've just signed up. So with that in mind, over on the left-hand side, we're going to click on users, which is a little person with a desk icon. It's about halfway down on the left-hand side. So we'll click on that and we get taken to my users page. Now, the people with the little blue suit icon, these are your system admins, right? So they can make all the changes we're talking about today. Dante, you see, is got a gray person icon. That indicates he is a standard user, meaning he can't make a lot of changes. In fact, he can check his voicemail and like set up call forwarding for himself, and that's really about it. So he's not gonna be able to adjust, like add his own devices to his user or anything like that beyond call forwarding. Now up here at the top, you would click on add user. It's gonna bring up a box. You basically need to fill out the form, right? So first name, last name, the system just wants some sort of text. The email address used for login, this needs to be unique for each user. Right, so you're not reusing email addresses among multiple people. That email address is what the system will default to use to communicate with your staff members. Right, so like voicemail notifications, right? Password reset emails. That's the email address they're going to be sent to. Create a password for that user, and then enter in their main extension number. Now, the system will default you to extension 1000 to start with. So the next one available would be 1001, 1002, etc. But you don't have to rely on that, right? You can just click on the box and enter a new extension number. I usually recommend using 4-digit extensions as that gives you the most growth possibilities, right? Like your main menu is restricted to 0 through 9, plus a star key and the default action, and that's it, right? So that's basically 11 options. Whereas if you have 4-digit extensions, people can enter the extension number and get to any number of people, and it still leaves you the 0 through 9, etc. Now, by default, the system will create a voicemail box for this user, right? It's intrinsically tied to the user. So for instance, you create the user, you add a VoIP phone that gets registered, your user can pick up that VoIP phone, dial *98 from their VoIP phone. That will log them directly into this voicemail box that was created with their user that was created with the user at the same time. When they do that first time, the system will walk them through creating their voicemail box PIN number and through creating their voicemail box greeting. Right? Then they're basically all set up. They will also have the option to review personal options where they can record their name, which is what the system uses for the company directory. This next option is if you want the user to be in that user directory, you just click the checkbox here. This is something you can change at a later time, right? Or change it back and forth as you need to. Third option here is send emails to an alternate address. So if you want those voicemail notifications or password resets to go to a different email address than the one that's used for login, right? Click on the little box in front of it, enter that different email address in the box here. And this is something you can change at a later time. And lastly, send credentials to the user. I do recommend clicking on the box in front of this. When you click on create user or create user and add another, the person that you just added will get an email welcoming them to their Dash account along with their login information so they can log in and like check their voicemails over the website, sort of thing. Now, once a user is created, you can click on their name. All right, so if you need to change the name, just enter that information here. If you need to change their email address or their password, right, their credentials, click on the change credentials link here. So enter the email address, and then for the password, you need to enter it twice, right? First time and then a confirmation. You also have a link here to send the person the password reset email, right? So that way they can change the password themselves. And then click on Save Changes. Here, you can change their voicemail box PIN number, right? So if someone's is unavailable, but you need to have their voicemails checked, just enter in a temporary PIN number. Click on Save Changes. Here's the option to send emails to an alternate address. And then here's the option to be in the user directory or not. Over here on the right, little person icon, this pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin down to a user. If you're the only user on the account, please do not change yourself to a user and click Save Changes, because then you won't have access to being an admin. The little clock icon here, this pull down allows you to select the time zone for the user, right? So this is that way their voicemails have the correct timestamp. Little flag icon, this allows you to change the display language for the user. You can change from English, French, German, or Russian. The dialing timeout by default is 20 seconds. This is plenty of time to route calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user that's only using a cell phone, you probably want to change this to 30 seconds, possibly longer, but I would start at 30 seconds. Simply put, routing a call to a cell phone takes a little bit longer, right? Basically, the call goes to a landline. The landline telecom knows exactly where that phone's in, so it just routes the call straight to it. Call comes to a cell phone telecom, they have to find that cell phone first, right? So they ping their cell phone towers on the network, find the phone, then they pass the call through, right? That delay, basically finding you, is why you would have to have a longer ring time. The extension box, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to, right? And just click on here and then enter a different extension number, and then click on Save Changes. The phone number box, users can have their own phone numbers, right? So this phone number rings directly to this user's devices. Now, a phone number on a user is available 24/7. There's no hours of operation. There's no holidays. So if you have a user with their cell phone on there, you want to make sure they're aware of that or that they're okay with that. You have two options here, right? Add from spare or buy numbers. Buy numbers means you're adding new numbers to the account, right? You're not invoiced on that right away. There's no like immediate charge on that. Spare numbers, that's how you reuse a phone number, right? Or make use of a number that's not currently in use. So these are my available spare numbers, right? I could click on the little checkbox in front of one of the numbers and click on add spare number. So now it's here on my user, and then I would click on save changes. If I want to add a new number to the account, I would click on buy numbers, and I choose local or toll free. We'll start with toll free. Choose the toll free prefix that you want to work with. Click on search. And you should be provided with a list of phone numbers. When you scroll down, the list will expand, assuming that there's more numbers available. All right, just click on a number you like. You can click on multiple if you want to, right? And you can always click on the trash icon to remove a number if you no longer want it. Maybe. Now, at this point, I haven't reserved the numbers in any fashion. And I haven't completed the process. So technically, these numbers are still not mine, right? So if I get called away, someone can finish the process on these numbers, right? And basically take them before I get them, right? So you want to click on buy numbers. That's the system verifying and make sure that the numbers were available and then adding them to your account. And in this case, when I'm adding them to my account, I'm adding it directly here to my user. Next up, local. You need to know the area code that you want a number in. And again, same kind of process. Let's see here. I want. All right. Wow. Okay, we're getting more numbers lately. So, what can happen for any area code is you can get a message saying that there's no numbers available in that area code. So in that instance, you would want to do a search for that area code with the word overlay, right? So like area code 310 overlay, and that would tell you another area code that matches that geographic area. But and then other than that, it's the same process, right? You would just click on add and click by numbers, right? Now, if you live in a large metropolitan area or your business is in a large metropolitan area, you're going to want to have that area overlay idea in mind because sometimes just there's not readily available phone numbers in every area code. This is especially true for like the original area code for a location. Now, as you've probably noticed that there's a little gear icon here to the right of each phone number. When you click on that gear, you have some options. First up is caller ID. So here, you can set up the outbound caller ID name. In the box to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters. It counts spaces as part of the 15. And that's information, that name that you put there or that text is what we associate with your phone number when your VoIP phones make an outbound call. After you click on Save Changes, that information is transmitted to the other carriers who support this feature. It takes them about 3 business days to update their servers. But after that, when you make an outbound call from your VoIP phones, calls go out, we will associate that name with that phone number. Some things to know, right? Not every carrier that your call can route through supports this feature, right? That's just unfortunately the nature of the business. But probably the most problematic thing is the receiving carrier has final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. This is especially true for the cell phone carriers. In general, the default for most cell phone carriers is they'll send the number through, but not the name. Like my cell phone carrier, they want to charge me $10 a month to have the CNAME information show up when calls that come to my cell phone. I'm not willing to pay them an extra $10 a month. I know other carriers or some of them, the prices I've seen have ranged between like $5 a month and $12 a month. Uh, so when you're making a call from your VoIP phone to a cell phone, your company name information here or your CNAME information is probably not going to get through. The inbound caller ID name, if you turn this on, that means you're accepting that CNAME information to come through and show up on your staff members' phones. Next up, we have E911. Each phone number you can assign an E911 address to. All right, this is helpful since a lot of people are working remote. And so for each phone number, you can have its own address. You can assign that phone numbers to specific VoIP phones for the purposes of 911, right? So, colleague Bob works from home. I can assign a E911 address to a specific phone number and then assign that phone number to his VoIP phone for the purposes of 911 only, right? So if he happens to pick up his VoIP phone, dials 911, his home address gets transmitted to emergency services, not the company headquarters address. Next up is prepend. This is a VoIP phone feature. You can add text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. It gives them an idea what the call might be about. So for instance, if I type in the word direct, right, click on Save Changes, the word direct shows up on my VoIP phone, and then the phone number of the person who's calling it. Right, that lets me know, oh, someone called my number directly. Right, so it's i.e., hopefully it's someone who's calling me back, right, because I made an outbound call to them. Again, click on Save Changes, and then any changes down here, you would click on Save Changes. Now, since I didn't click Save Changes, if we come back here, you'll see I only back down to one number. So those other numbers all went back to being a spare number. Okay, next up, we have our device box. And actually, we'll go down here. All right, so you see the devices that are already on the account or on the user, and then you can add from spare, right, which is reusing a device, or making use of a device that hasn't been in use yet, or new device. First up is SIP phone. This is that physical VoIP phone. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some, like Yealink, have a lot of models. Others have like a dozen. So find the make and model of the phone you're working with. Give it a name, right? Like Bob's phone, or location, like warehouse phone, right? I usually recommend customers avoid things like phone one, phone two, just because 6 months, a year from now, that may not make a lot of sense to you. Whereas if you have Bob's phone, you're like, oh, I know where Bob's sitting, and that's where his phone should be. The MAC address, this should be unique to each device, typically a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone is plugged in, you can go to its basic settings or status settings and get the MAC address. And then you would click on Create Device. This would disappear. Then you would click on Save Changes. You would want to click on the device box again, find the device you just added. So in this case, it's this one here. You want to go to Advanced, and then select Miscellaneous. And where it says Allow Reprovision, just to the right of that, click on that Unlock box. You'll get a little green message box up here. Then click on Save Changes, and Save Changes again. So now I've just told the system that I'm going to provision this phone. So as far as my dashboard is concerned, I'm done. You're going to need to log into that phone's web user interface, the web UI. Typically, that means getting the IP address of that phone and putting that IP address in a web browser on your computer. That computer and that phone should be on the same network. That will log you into that phone's web user interface. Then you need to go to the auto provision section of that phone and enter in a URL. For the specifics of that, in the show notes, you want to look at the auto provisioning phones document. It's going to have screenshots for the various manufacturers, as well as a proper syntax for that URL. And in some cases, or for some of the manufacturers, some settings to verify. But once you go through all of that, right, click update or confirm, and then you would tell the phone to auto provision, it's going to reboot a couple times. And once it's done, it would show up as a green device on your account here. All right, next up, under new devices, we have cell phone, and this process would also apply for landlines. Give it a name. Then in the number, in the box to the right, put the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number. No spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then click on create device, and then save changes. So if I click on this one here, right, see I gave it a name, and here's the +1 area code and number. We're going to check the advanced options. So by default, these two are checked, and this top one is unchecked. So what happens? Right, we send a call. Call comes in, goes out to my cell phone, it rings. When I pick up, I will first hear a message saying, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When I press 1, I'm telling the system, yes, I'm here, and yes, I want to take that call. Right, it then connects the caller to me, and I begin speaking. Now, what we've come across for some of our customers is that they've also contracted out with another company for an automated answering service for their like after hours calls, for instance. In that scenario, what normally happens is the automated answering service gives you a phone number saying, hey, just send calls to this phone number, we'll handle your calls. So you would come to your Dash account, you would add that phone number as a cell phone or landline device on your account. Probably on a user, but maybe not. But in that instance, you would want to come into the device and go to these advanced options and put a check mark in front of this first section, right? Make use of cell phone's voicemail. When you do that, and we send a call to that device, right? So the phone number, the automated answering service provided to you, when that automated answering service picks up, we connect the call, right? There's no message about this is a forwarded call. There's no need to press a 1, right? Because your automated answering service doesn't know to do that. Most of them don't have that capability to listen in first and then press a key, right? So just to make that transition smoother, put a check mark here, and the call will go through. The other thing that can come up is this one here. Keep original caller ID. By default, this is on. So meaning, right, customer Mary calls in the system, reaches out to my cell phone. In my cell phone, I see customer Mary's phone number. Now, I've had enough robodialers and telemarketers call my cell phone that, for the most part, I only pick up calls from phone numbers I recognize. Right, so if I don't recognize the number, I let it go to voicemail and I call them back when it's convenient for me. For a business call, that's probably not ideal. So in that instance, you might want to uncheck this. And when you do that, right, you would click on Save Changes, for instance. When customer Mary calls, instead of seeing her phone number, actually, you want to go to the dashboard. This number shows up on my cell phone. Right, so hopefully I would recognize my company phone number, so I'd be willing to pick up the call. All right, next up is soft phone. So whenever you add a soft phone or web phone to the account, you're going to get this warning message. Please read it at least once. It's talking about wireless VoIP technology and 911, right? So i.e., it's possible with a wireless VoIP phone, you could be at a different location than what is set up for 911 for that phone. So you probably don't want to call 911 when you're at a, like that customer site from your soft phone, and instead just use your normal cell phone number. But we'll go ahead and click close here, and a big box will pop up here. Now, this is defaulting to a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using somebody else's soft phone application, not the VirtualPBX soft phone. That's perfectly fine. First up, click on the device, create a device name for it, right? Give it a name. You're going to want to copy and paste the SIP username because that's one of the 3 pieces of information you need. Then for the SIP password, click on the SIP password box to reveal it, and then you're going to copy and paste that into your application. Please don't change this. Please don't delete it because that will break it. And then here's that account realm. Right? So those are the 3 pieces of information you would need to program or provision a third-party soft phone application. You would then click on Create Device, Save Changes, and then hopefully get that application working. Now, if you want to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone app, then what you want to do is down here, below it where it says View Configuration Details, or Guide, excuse me, there's a toggle. It says Use Third-Party Application. Well, you can click on that. So now it says Use VirtualPBX Application. That information disappeared because you don't need it, but you still need to give it a name. And then you would click on Create Device, and then you would click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, the user gets an email. It says, welcome to your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. And the body of the email is the username and password to get logged in, as well as download links to download the app to whatever device they're going to use the soft phone app on. Now, you can use the soft phone on different devices. Like, for instance, I could use it on my Mac when I'm sitting at my desk. If I'm going to go to, say, a customer site, I would log out of the soft phone on my computer, and then I could log into it on the app on my cell phone. Right? So I can still get calls on the app on my cell phone. I do not want to be logged into the app on both my cell phone and my computer at the same time, because that can cause problems for me in order to answer calls that are coming in. And the last thing I want to cover is the web phone. Again, you get that warning message. You just need to give it a device name, click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. And the web phone uses a user's login information, so it has to be associated with a user in order for it to work. All right, next up is user features. So first up, caller ID number. This is for users with a phone number assigned to them, and you want their outbound caller ID to be that phone number that you assign to them, right, instead of your main company number. So click on the feature and then click on the toggle here to turn it on. Make sure you select the phone number and then save changes. Once I do that, whenever this user makes an outbound call, it's this 408 phone number that shows up as the outbound call ID from their VoIP phone, right? Not this 775 number on the main account. You would do that, for instance, for like your sales staff, right? Voicemail box, this is automatically turned on because I enabled it or created it when I added the user. This is a default setup for a voicemail box, right? So I'm attaching the messages to email as an MP3 attachment. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. There are 3 ways to listen to messages, but basically 2 ways to manage. All right, the first way to listen is via that email. So when a voicemail is left, you get an email, has the date, the time, phone numbers involved, the mailbox number, and then an MP3 attachment that you can click on and listen to directly on your device. To manage your voicemail, the first option is to call into your voicemail box, right? So from a VoIP phone, *98, enter your voicemail box PIN number. You can listen to messages over the phone that way. It also gives you the option to delete. The other way is up here under your menu option, we have the user portal. When you click on the user portal, it defaults right to your voicemails, right? So you have the playback icon, you have the download icon, but you also have this little box here at the very front or the left of it, and then you can change its status. Ah. You can also call into your system from a cell phone or landline, right? As long as your main number, or as long as you have a number that goes to the virtual receptionist or an auto attendant. Because when the main greeting plays from a cell phone, you can hit *97. Then the system will ask you for your voicemail box number and PIN number, and you can listen to it from a cell phone or landline. All right, follow me. This is something you would set up for a user that has multiple devices. So this user has 3 devices. So by default, when a call comes into it, the user like this, it's going to ring all 3 of their devices at the same time, right? So they pick up whatever device they're closest to, handle the call. Some people may not like that. So then what you would do is go to the follow me settings and enable it. Now it's defaults to the devices all to be on do not ring. You have to tell the system what devices do you want to use. So uncheck the ones that you want to make use of. And the green bar here, you can click and drag it to the right to give it a ring time. Now up here at the top, this is a timestamp. It defaults to 120 seconds. Right, you can change it down to 60, for instance. Right, and then in this case, they're still both ringing at roughly the same time. But I can click distribute. So now it's ringing this soft test phone first for 30 seconds. If I don't pick up, then it goes to the web phone for the next 30, right? And then I'm going to go to voicemail. All right, if I needed to, as an admin, I can always uncheck the other device and click distribute. So now it goes through this order every time for a call. Now, if this user is part of a group, which we're going to get into next, calls from the group ignore the follow me settings, right? So in this case, right, normally if I clicked on save changes, right, this user has their calls hit their cell phone first or their soft phone first, then their cell phone, and then the web phone. Calls from the group would ring all 3 at the same time. Right, so it's one way for the user to know, oh, it's a call coming to my user versus a call coming from the group. But just so you're aware. Fax box, you can decide to have users have their own fax box. You click up here to enable it, and then you're given a choice of selecting a spare number, buying a new number, or adding a new extension. I recommend making use of a phone number as that gives this user maximum versatility. However, that can increase your bill. So you might want to add an extension. If you add an extension, the user can only ever receive faxes. They'll never be able to send out. The system basically uses the user's fax box parameters when it tries to send out, meaning it tries to use that extension number as the outbound caller ID, which will cause it to fail. The other concern, or probably more concerning, is for inbound faxes, because you're relying on the person who's faxing in to know the extension number and know how to send faxes to an extension number. Right now, some electronic fax services don't even have the ability to let you add an extension number. Right? You can only enter a phone number and click send. Right, so they're not going to be able to receive that fax. And even for analog fax machines, right, you have to have the person either, I guess the default way would be listen in as on the fax machine and then enter the extension number when they get to the main greeting. Or they have to know like the special key combination to give spaces after the phone number in order to have the extension numbers get pushed through afterwards. Conference bridge. You click on this toggle up here to enable a conference feature for a user, right, so they can host or moderate a conference. And then you need to enter a PIN number for them. This is something they can change in the user portal. The enable video conferencing is for your staff, right? So internal members on a VoIP phone can make use of the video conferencing. Anyone calling from outside the system, i.e. a cell phone or landline, would not be able to make use of conferencing. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn on call forwarding on their own. They can also turn it off, and that's something they can do under the user portal. They can also do it directly from their VoIP phone using feature codes. A failover mode is something you as an admin would have to set up for them. This is basically comes in play is if their VoIP phone should go offline and a call comes to that user at that time, failover mode will automatically forward the call. Right, so you would click on failover mode. You would, in the number area, in the box, you put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. And then you would click on save changes. Right, so now if the user's VoIP phone becomes unregistered for whatever reasons, call comes in, goes to the phone number. All right. Now, if you have a user like this one who has a cell phone as part of their normal call routing, you don't need to make use of call forwarding, period, because they're already forwarding to a cell phone. All right, customize call recording. So by default, when you first enable call recording, it looks like this. You're not actually recording anything yet. You need to tell the system what kind of calls you want to record. So inbound internal is a coworker called, right? So coworker Bob calls me. Do I want to record the call or not? Right? Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Probably want to record that. Right? Outbound internal, I called coworker Bob. So I can record it or I can leave it off. And then outbound external is I called customer Mary. So we see something like this, right? The external ones are being recorded or all four, right? And then you would click on save changes. Now, your account includes some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. So you want to double check the pricing page, or you can talk to our account services team. You can email them at accountservices@virtualpbx.com. If you're going to record every call and you have heavy call volume, you're probably going to want to look at AWS storage or integration, excuse me. And basically that means you would have to have an account with Amazon Web Services. That will allow you to link your Dash account to your AWS account and store your call recordings there. Right? At heavy call volumes, it's going to be more cost effective to do so. That's also something we do recommend for people in insurance, because I believe there's a mandate that requires you to keep your call recordings for 10 years. Music on hold, you can choose to have your users have their own hold music, not use the default one. So if you do that, first you need to enable the feature. Then either use the pull down for a file you already uploaded, or click on the upload button, click on browse, find a .mp3 or .wav file, click the up arrow icon. Once it's finished uploading, click on save changes. So now when this person presses hold, their hold music file that you uploaded is what plays, right? So you do this, you might do this for like your sales staff, where you want them to have something that talks about special promotions, right? Product specials, whereas your rest of your staff may not be necessary, or might even be annoying to customers, right? Like calling your tech support people, I don't care about specials. Do not disturb. As an admin, you basically turn it off or on. This would be like a staff member had to leave for a family emergency, and so their phone doesn't need to be ringing off the hook. You would just go in, click enable. Hot desking. This is for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling where people may not have a set desk that they use when they come into the office. And by extension, they don't have a set VoIP phone at the office. This allows them to make use of an available VoIP phone for the time when they're in the office. Right, so first, you click Enable. Then you need to give it a hot desk ID. Now, you need to give the user a hot desk ID. If you're making use of 4-digit extensions, I just say make their hot desk ID match their extension number. It's one less thing for them to memorize. You can choose to require a PIN number or not. Doesn't matter. That's up to you. So when you do this, basically, let's say I come into the office on Tuesday. I sit down at desk number 2. I pick up the VoIP phone there. I hit *11, click call. The system asks me for my hot desk ID. I enter that. It will then tell me that calls will now come to me at this device. So the rest of my workday, I'm sitting at desk number 2, working on the computer there or my laptop, what have you, working away. Someone calls my user, the phone I'm sitting at rings, right? So I can pick up, I can answer it, yada, yada, yada. End of my workday, I pick up that VoIP phone, I hit *12, enter my hot desk ID to turn off hot desking. Next time I come into the office, someone is sitting at desk number 2, I say good morning. I sit down at desk number 3, pick up the phone, *11, enter hot desk ID, calls to my user, and I ring at that phone. All right, so we've got users with devices. So on the left-hand side, we're going to click on groups. It's a multi-person icon here. Groups are like departments, sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups. Up here at the top, you click on Add Group. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number. And then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be part of the group. Right? And then you would click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. You can change the name at any time. Right? The system doesn't map it to anything other than to the group. The group call attempts, this is how many times the system will offer a call to the members of the group. Default is 1, but there's little arrows to the far right, so you can increase or decrease it as necessary. If you need to get rid of a group, just click on the delete group. Otherwise, click on save changes. Then to the right, we've got the members box for the group. Here you see the members I've added to the group and how I'm offering calls to them. This setup is referred to as blast ringing or ring all, meaning whoever picks up the call first gets it. Now, in an office environment, probably pretty easy for David and Jeanette to hear that Dante picked up the call. And so that's why when they picked up, they hear nothing. In a remote working situation, right, David and Jeanette may not know that Dante picked up the call unless people are using something like Slack or Teams to let each other know, right? They might get concerned that, oh, there's something wrong with my device or with the system because every time I answer a call, I'm getting dead air, right? Now, maybe Dante is just super quick, and always answers the call first. You may have to, hey, let other people answer the call, whatever. Now, up here at the top, timestamps, right? Default's 220 seconds, 2 minutes. You can change that down. That's not a big deal, or up. You can also click distribute. In this case, calls are always offered to Dante first, even if he's on a call, right? So call comes in, Dante answers it. Second call calls in, the system doesn't skip him. It rings his phone for 20 seconds, right? He might hear a call waiting beep. If he's disabled that feature on his VoIP phone, for instance, then he wouldn't hear it. But after 20 seconds, then David's phone rings, right? Hopefully he would pick up. Now, if a third call comes in, right, Dante and David are both on calls, that third caller has to wait 40 seconds before it's offered to Jeanette. Now, these are sliders, so I could reduce that time, for instance, right? So that way, the second and third callers aren't waiting as long. If I had additional staff members, I could click on Add Users to add more people to the group if I needed to. Likewise, let's say Dante has a special project that I need to have him get completed, right? I can click and drag his name to the bottom and then click Distribute again. So now he's the third one in the order. Now, Groups are an included feature. You might want to look at the call center or the ACD queues uh, if groups aren't working out for you. Now, the call center is an upgrade off of existing accounts, so you definitely need to talk to account services about that. Queues have the advantage of they'll skip a user that's on a call, right? It knows that, hey, this person's on a call, skips them, goes to the next available user. Also in queues, users can mark themselves away, like they're away for lunch, right? They can log themselves in and out of the queue at the beginning of their shift or end at the beginning and end of their shifts. In a group, a standard user doesn't have that kind of control, right? Also for queues, from a management perspective, there's a feature where you can eavesdrop in on a call, right? So you can listen in just to see how a call is going. You can also whisper to your agent to give them help if they need it, or even barge in if things are getting out of control. It's just some things to be aware of. Right. Next up, we have the extension box for the user, or I mean for the group. Groups can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Yeah, phone numbers. Just like on a user, a phone number on our group is available 24/7. No hours of operation, etc. You can buy numbers, adds a new number, or add from spare to make use of a number that you're not currently making use of. Then we've got group features. First up is ring back. So call comes into the group, rings your staff members' phones. That ringing sound is piped back to the inbound caller. That's where the term ring back comes from. If you don't want that ringing sound to play, then you would click enable, and then you would upload a .wav or .mp3 file. You want to make sure this file plays as long as your total ring time of the group, right? So groups default to 2 minutes. Make sure your media file here plays for at least 2 minutes, right? The system is not going to loop it for you. And we got next action. If the call is not answered from your group, what do you want the system to do with the call, right? So first you need to enable it. Then down here, you select from the pull down where you want to send the call. You can send it to a voicemail box. You can send it to another group. You can send it to a specific user. You can send it back to your main menu. Basically something that's already created on the account. Allow call forward. Up here, you can click enable, and then that means your users can make use of call forwarding. Now, again, if your staff is already making use of cell phones on their users, you don't need to make use of call forwarding. But if you're mostly a VoIP device situation, then you might want to have this enabled. Caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. You would click up here to enable the feature. This allows you to add either text or additional numbers that you want to show up in front of the caller ID on your staff members' phones, right? So calls from the group, for instance, let's exit that out. Right? So now calls coming into the group, bring staff members' VoIP phones. On their VoIP phones, they're going to see the word support and then the phone number of the person who's calling in. And so that lets them know the kind of call they're about to receive. All right, so now that we have users and groups, we can click on main number. And this page sometimes takes a little bit to load. Oh, okay, let's try that again. There we go. So first up, you've got your main company numbers. Got the little gear icon, so you update the caller ID, E911, or prepend for any of those numbers. Whoops. Down here, you can add new numbers, right? Or make use of your spare numbers. You can always click unassign to remove a number as a main number in case you need to use it for something else, or you're simply just trying to reduce the number of phone numbers on your account. Once you have phone numbers in place, then you can choose your office hours strategy. You have 24-hour open office, i.e. you're open 24/7, or custom office hours. If you choose custom office hours, For each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day. And then on the boxes here to the right, you select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option down here at the very bottom to say you're closed for lunch at the same time every day. Right? You would just put a check mark here and then enter your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time. And then click on Save Changes. Next up, office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. Then over here on the right, you have add holiday. You have single day, date range, and advanced. Each one of those creates a new row. So like here I have Christmas Day for a single day. I gave it a name, choose the month and the date, and then save changes. Date range I have here for holiday, right? Gave it a name, a start date, and an end date. Save changes. And then Memorial Day is my sample for the advanced option. I gave it a name. I choose the month. The second pull down, you have the option of 1st through 5th, as well as last, and then the day of the week, and then save changes. If you need to get rid of a holiday, you would click on the little trash icon and then save changes. Realize that there's no year indicator for any holiday. So be careful after a holiday lapses before you update, so that way you're not closed 2 days in a row by accident. Then we've got incoming call handling. Excuse me. So for my main numbers, how am I handling calls during my open hours, during my after hours, and then during my holidays? All right. So in this instance, for my open hours, I have calls from my main number are going to my virtual receptionist. This is a link here that I can click on. Opens up a big old window. On the left-hand side, this is my main menu. This is what people press on their phone to navigate through my system. I would click on Add Route to add additional menu options. Now, the first pull down, you have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. The second pull down are things on your system. Right? So these, you want to have users and groups already here, so you have them as options. But you scroll down and choose what you want the system to route calls to. Right? You can keep clicking Add Route and designate them until you're done. Then you get your greeting options. Your main greeting is for saying thank you for calling, and then you want to give directions in terms of what should they press to get to who, right? You can include things like special promotions or your hours of operations, but the main thing is you want to make sure you're telling them, press 1 to speak to sales, press 2 to speak to support, that sort of thing. First up, you have text-to-speech. In the box here, you type in the greeting you want to use. The system will read it back in a computerized robotic voice. You can enter up to 250 characters in this box. Not words, characters. Does not count spaces as part of the characters, so that helps a little bit. This is great for if you're just getting started, whether with us in general or just in general, right? You're a startup business. You're not fully sure yet how calls are going to route. The downside of this is that it doesn't allow you to name the file. It names it for you. So in this case, it's going to call it main open hours menu TTS. Right, so if I type in something, now I have some obvious typos here, but that's fine, right? When I click update and then save and save changes, now the system has made a file called main open hours menu TTS. I call in, I listen to it, and I'm like, oh, I made a typo. I would come back here, right? Make that correction, and I would click update, save, and save changes. But now I have two files called main open hours menu TTS. From any pull down on the system, I'm not going to be able to tell which one is which. So my recommendation is when you make use of text-to-speech, that's fine. But after you've clicked update and save changes, on the left-hand side, there's a greetings tab, which we'll be getting to shortly. Go there, find the main open hours menu TTS file, click on the little wrench icon, change the name to something you could recognize, like at least use like main greeting 1 or something of that nature. Upload your own file, .wave, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte. Choose file on your system, click update, save, and save changes. Choose from existing recordings. This pull down will show your existing media files on the account. Right? Main greetings, voicemail greetings, bring back files. So again, that's why you want to use names you can easily recognize. Record it over the phone. Now, when the system says pick up a phone registered to the account, it means pick up a VoIP phone. Right? It's a security feature that's built in because if a phone is registered to the account, the system knows this phone is associated with this account, so it's safe for it to change the main greeting. If that doesn't work for you for whatever reasons, right, you want to use a cell phone or a landline, that's fine. But before you can do so, down here under settings, you want to see where it says allow outside recording, turn that on. So now you can call into your main number from any phone. When you hear that main greeting play, you're going to enter in this PIN number. This PIN number is specific to this time of day, right? So it's only good during my open hours, right? So if I try to call in on Saturday, enter this PIN number, it's not going to work because that's my after hours. And when you record over the phone, you're overwriting the existing recording that's there, right? So like if you just signed up with us, there's a default greeting in place. If you call in over the phone, you're just overwriting it. I just bring that up just because sometimes during the holidays, people get rushed and they overwrite the greeting that they normally use for like 80, 90% of the year with a holiday greeting. We don't have a way to recover that for you. Now, when we get to the greetings tab, I'll cover the one way I recommend for customers to help avoid that particular issue. Professional recording services. When you click on order, this opens up a new tab and takes you to a company called Snap Recordings that we have partnered with. They have like 100 voice actors and actors to choose from. They bill you directly. They have their own pricing packages. When they're done, they email you the file. So then you would just come back up to upload your own file and add it here. Next up, under settings, number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. They have one built-in opportunity automatically. So any number you add here is on top of that initial option or attempt, right? So in this case, I have one missed dial or one retry on missed dial, right? Which means my customer or the inbound caller has 2 total attempts to navigate through my phone system. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system lists for an additional button press, i.e. extension number, right? So caller calls in and they press 7. Now, I don't have a menu option 7 set up on the system right now. I don't have an extension number 7. The system will wait for 5 seconds in case the person wants to enter additional digits for a multi-digit extension. But after that 5 seconds, says, oh, that's it. Checks, says nothing, gives them the retry, right? So replays the main greeting. If that person hits 7 again, right, system waits 5 more seconds, but after that it says we didn't recognize your entry. Now, I currently have a default action. In that instance, it would send the caller to the default action. If I click on the little X here, now I don't have a default action. So on that second failed attempt, the system would say we don't recognize your entry and then say goodbye and end the call. We just covered allow outside recording. So allow dialing extensions, by default, this is on. And this just means if the inbound caller enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call to that extension number. Right? If I turn this off, that means my inbound caller can only press my menu options. Entering an extension number just results in an invalid entry. And then lastly, suppress the playing of invalid entry. Right, so let's put the default action in place here. Now, if my inbound caller keeps making mistakes, and then the system and I don't want the system to play that message as a we did not recognize your entry, then I would turn this on, right? So now, after that second failed system or failed attempt to navigate through the system will automatically transfer the call to my default action, right? And there's no message played. Now, let's see. Oh, let me get rid of that. And that. So any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you need to click Save here at the bottom right. Takes you back to your incoming call handling. You need to click on Save Changes, right? You're clicking Save twice. Now, for my after hours, I'm making use of the second option, which we refer to as the live operator answer option. This first pull down, you have things on your account you can choose, right? Typically, users or groups or queues are selected. Also, devices could also be an option. But basically, the idea is you're giving a person or multiple people, in the case of groups or queues, an option to the ability to answer the call first, right? If they're not able to, right? So in this case, my support group isn't able to answer the call. That inbound caller would then go to my virtual receptionist. Now, this is my after hours virtual receptionist, so I would have a different greeting in place and in this case, different menu options. Right? But I would still need to click save and save changes if I made any changes. This third option here, right, during my holidays, this first pull down, again, things on your account, users, groups, devices, media file, etc. I chose the very last option, which is saying just go right to voicemail. And then I choose the voicemail box on the account that I want callers to go to, right? I.e. during the holidays, we're not going to try to ring anybody. We're not going to give you some extra media file. We're just saying, hey, please leave a message. And again, save changes. Main conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, but again, they're going to the same set of conference rooms. You've got a custom greeting, although it's just text to speech. You would just click enable and then type in your greeting, click on save, and this would play when people join the conference. Even if I leave this disabled, when you call the conference room number, it says welcome to the conference and then prompts you to enter the conference room number and then the PIN number. The main fax box, you can have one main fax box number. Once you have it in place, you can edit the fax box. First up, you have the inbound notification email, right? Designed to put someone's or a email address in the box to the right. Every time a successful fax comes through, that email address is sent a message, has the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, and then a PDF attachment of the fax. One thing to be aware of, if someone dials your fax box number, right, here's fax tones and then hangs up, this email address gets a message saying that there's a failed inbound fax attempt. It's going to have the date, the time, and phone numbers involved. If in that information it says wireless number next to the phone number, you know that was a misdial. Right? There wasn't a problem with the system. Beyond that, you would need to either reach out to whoever was trying to fax to you to see, just let them know, hey, the fax didn't come through. The email permissions, the box to the right is designed to put your company email domain here, or you could put a single email address, and that's allowing to send faxes out on this account. To send a fax out, it's via email, meaning you create an email like you normally do. In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, and your account realm. Then you need to attach a PDF or a TIFF file and click send. All right, the system looks at the to field, it looks at the from field, it looks at the attachment. It does not send or transmit anything from the subject line or the body of the email. You're only able to send one attachment per email and to one address per email, right? One phone number. So you want to make sure you don't have any like subscription files that automatically attach to your emails. All right, auto attendance. This is an add-on feature or plan-specific feature. This allows you to create additional auto attendance. i.e. you're making use of submenuing, right? One for English, two for Spanish. Those will each have their own attendants here. Or you have multiple businesses and you want them on the same account, right? So each business would have its own phone number or phone numbers, as well as their own main greeting, right? And then menu options. So up here at the top, click on Add Attendant, give it a name, give it an extension number, click on Create Attendant. Once attendant is created, it defaults to being unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, i.e. a separate business. Now, you can always click on this toggle. Now it says available in main menu, meaning it can be a menu option off of my virtual receptionist. It can even be a next action option off of a group. Right? But you leave it unavailable in main menu if it's its own business. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? Add from spare or buy new. You got the little gear icon here too to update the caller ID, E911 or PPEND. You can have additional extension numbers for your auto attendants. The extension number is not something your customers would ever know, but your staff would make use of to transfer calls. Okay. And then lastly, you have the little wrench icon here under settings. Shows your open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This matches what is set up under your main number, right? So your secondary businesses have to have the same hours of operation as your primary. If that's not the case, then you're going to want to talk to account services to see if it makes sense to have a custom account built for you or to have multiple accounts. But any changes you make under these virtual receptionists, just click on Save Changes here. Next up, we have the Devices tab. Right? Shows all your devices on the account. Red means it's unregistered, meaning we can't send a call to it. Right? Like for a soft phone, that could be they're not logged into it. Physical VoIP phone, that could be because they're having a network problem or it's not plugged in. Green device means we can send a call to it. Right? And this black one down here is because under this enable column, I turned it off. Right? That's my unregistered device. You have this little wrench icon here under edit. Under advanced, for audio, for a physical device, you may want to have the selected codec set up to for G711A and G711U. You only really need to set these up if you're having some sort of audio problem, right? By default, they're not going to be there, but they should default to them in normal use. But every now and then you have to set them up because the phone is having some sort of problem. The emergency caller ID, right? This is where you would set up the specific phone number to this device that has an address. So that way, when this device calls 911, this is the address information that's transmitted to emergency services. You can add new devices up here. I want to bring up the soft phone. Right? You still get that warning message, but on this page, you can only add a third-party soft phone. Right? The VirtualPBX soft phone gets associated with an email address, which means it has to be assigned to a user. Right? That's why you don't have the toggle here for the soft phone. All right, on the next step, we've got greetings. The greetings tab here shows all your media files on the account, right? Your main greetings, your voicemail greetings, your ringback files. You can add new files up here at the top, right? Just give it a name, click on the browse button, upload an MP3 or .wav, and then click on create greeting. It will upload it here. You can't assign a greeting here, right? But you can at least see that they're here, and then you can assign them at the relative locations. The name, right? Just the name of the file. The source, you've got TTS, which is text to speech. You have upload, which is a file that was uploaded, and then a recording, which means it was recorded over the phone. You have the play icon, which means when you click on play, it will just play that greeting directly in your browser. You also have the download option. Now, there's two reasons you would want to download the file. The first is because when you click on the play button, it doesn't work, right? Like your browser is not playing the file, so download it and play back on your media player on your device. But the other reason to download a greeting would be if it's your default main greeting that you use for most of the year. I would strongly recommend downloading that file so you have a backup locally, right? So that way you can always upload it if you need to. And then you've got the little wrench icon here under Edit. All right, this is where you would change the name of a greeting file. You can also remove the file, right? But if you just change the name, just click on Save Changes. All right, next up we have phone numbers. It starts off with numbers in use, just basically show you where they're assigned. You got the little gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID, EN11 or prepend for any number. Spare numbers, these are the numbers you're not currently using. And if you want to remove a number, it first needs to be a spare number, right? So once it's a spare number, you can remove the number from your account. And to do so, you put a little check mark in front of the box, in front of the number. Then you've got this delete option will show up. You confirm the deletion. And now I have less phone numbers on my account. The by number just adds local or toll-free numbers to your spare number list. Port is how you would move a phone number from one carrier to another, right? So say from AT&T to VirtualPBX, click on new port request. We need to give it a name, choose local or toll-free, one or the other, right? Click on next. Then the system's going to ask you to upload a PDF copy of your most recent bill from your current carrier, i.e. from AT&T, dated within the last 30 days. After that, there's a form to fill out where it asks you for your company information, right? So that should match what AT&T has on file for you in terms of the company name, the address, etc. It's going to ask you for a BTN, which stands for billing telephone number. If you're only porting one phone number, use that phone number you're porting as your BTN. If you're billing multiple, you're going to probably want to double check with your current carrier to find out what the BTN really is. There's also an option to enter a PIN number. PIN number is typically used for mobile carriers, but not always. Right? It can be other carriers as well. It's a security feature. So it's something you typically have to request from your carrier. Some of them will have it printed on their invoice. Typically, that's something I see with other VoIP carriers. The mobile carriers, you almost always have to contact them directly to get that PIN number. It's sometimes referred to as a transfer PIN or an account PIN number. It's definitely not a PIN number you use to log in to that phone or phone number or the account, like their web portal or anything like that. Porting a toll-free number, if everything's correct, takes about 3 to 5 business days. Local numbers vary. Some port the next business days, but the average tends to be about 2 to 3 weeks. If we get a rejection notice, we double check to make sure there wasn't a typo from us on our side, or like in the case of an address mismatch, if we have 2 different addresses, like one on your LOA and then one on your bill copy, we try them both, right, just to make sure. The LOA, right, stands for letter of agency. There'll be an option there in that process to download a blank one and then upload a completed and signed one. It does need its signature, whether that's a digital signature file or you printed it out and signed it manually and scanned it back in. Right? Typing in your name twice will get rejected. Right? Printing your name gets rejected. So it does need some sort of actual digital signature file or an actual manual signature. One thing to keep in mind is if you submit the port request and the losing carrier doesn't have to respond right away, right? So if you put in, if we didn't catch that you typed in your name on the LOA, right? You didn't actually sign it. We send it off. The losing carrier can wait a few days and then just reject it because it wasn't signed. Voicemail boxes shows your voicemail boxes on the account. Now, any voicemail box that has an entry under the user was a voicemail box that was created with the user. You can always create your own voicemail box, whoops, up here at the top where it says add voicemail box. Give it a name, give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number, and then click on create voicemail box. Now I'm going to click here on the wrench icon next to the support voicemail box. Now, one thing to know, the voicemail box number is not the same as an extension number, right? So that means someone dials my main number during my open hours, enters 3333, they're not getting to this voicemail box. They'll get an invalid entry because there's no extension 3333. However, you would need the voicemail box number and the PIN number to check the voicemail messages over the phone, right? When you hear that *98 or *97. Right. Also, if you're going to change the greeting for that voicemail box. Now, under advanced, we've got the greeting media. You can upload .wav, .mp3 up to 1 megabyte in file size. There's also this temporary file down here. If you have something selected under temporary and media, only the temporary file plays, right? The temporary is for that out of office or vacation message. Once once the temporary box or field is set back to none, then the media file will play again. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have one built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. But any voicemail box, you come to the recipient area here and click on Add New Recipient. Then in the box provided, enter in an email address, right? Ideally different than the one that's used for the user. Keep clicking Add until you're done, and then Save Changes. You can always click on the trash icon to remove an email address that's redundant or no longer needed. So once you've added a media file and recipients, then you can go to the options. Then you click on already set up. Once you do so, that means you're not changing the greeting over the phone, right? Say, hey, it's set. Don't mess with it. You'd uncheck it to change it over the phone. The other thing that, you probably want to double check is, are you attaching the messages to email? And do you want to delete messages after the notification? So this is my support voicemail box. I don't want this voicemail box to ever get full. So in this case, I am deleting after that notification is sent, right? So caller calls in, eventually leaves a voicemail. When the system sends that email out with the information as well as MP3 attachment, it then deletes that voicemail box from my system. So I'm not able to check messages for this voicemail box over the phone because by the time I do, they've already been deleted, right? So I have to rely on that I can access those voicemail messages via the email addresses that are associated with this voicemail box. All right, virtual text forward. This is an add-on feature. This allows you to have your phone numbers be able to receive texts and then forward them on. This is not for two-way text communication. So up here at the top, you would click on Add Number. In this box down here, this pull down will show you your available spare numbers. So you need to set the text forward on as a spare number first, and then you would assign it to, say, a user or a group or a main number. Then you choose to enter either an email address or a webhook. A webhook would be a plan's feature that allows you to link your Dash account to other software, like you're linking to Zapier or something like that. And then you would click on Create Virtual Text Forward. So you see here, these phone numbers, when a text comes in, an email is sent to these addresses. In the body of the email, right, has the date, the time, the text message involved, and that's it. Right? And there's nothing else for you to do. Virtual extensions, this is a plan-specific feature, so you'd have to talk to our services team because as far as I know, this is not yet an add-on. This allows you to create extension numbers without actually adding users, right? So you would click up here. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number. Then you click on create extension. And then you click on the device and add a device. Now, a virtual extension can only have one device, right? Usually we see cell phones on these. The soft phone, right? You can only add a third-party soft phone to a virtual extension because again, it has to be associated with an email address. Since there is no email address because it's not a user, you can only use a third-party soft phone. Additionally, the virtual extensions can be a menu option off of your virtual receptionist or auto attendants, right? People can dial this extension number directly from the virtual receptionist. You're not able to add a virtual extension to a group or to a call queue, right? Because both of those require users. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You have today, which shows a call that came in today. You have a green arrow to the right. That means a call came in to the system. When you click on it, you see I have two legs, right? The first leg, this is a call coming into the system itself, right? And then the second leg is a call going from the system to the user's device, right? And then you want to see normal clearing here because that means the call ended normally. Now, I can go to this week to see if there's more calls, this month to see even more. Custom allows me to change the date range. So like I can go back to March, for instance, and click filter. And then I'll see some more calls. Let's go back to January. I wanna. All right, yellow arrow to the left is a call going out from the system. Right, in all options, you can download the file. It's a CSV file, so if you're good with spreadsheets, you can gain some more information about your call history. Little fire extinguisher icon here, this allows you to report the call. It's going to create an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's going to include the technical details of the call. Please type in context, right? Just from the technical details, we're not always going to know why you're sending it in. For instance, if you're having an audio issue, it's just going to show up as a normal clearing because you or the other person probably just hung up. We don't know that you had bad audio. Now, the custom field will let you go back up to about 12 months. After that, if you need to go further back, you want to contact our support team. We'd have to escalate that up to our engineers. They can go back up to 18 months. After that, the data is not available. So if you need your call log information for some sort of compliance reason, you'd want to do this, I would say, on a monthly basis. Feature codes. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. They are listed here, obviously in your dashboard. If you go to the support pages, there's a link in the show notes. You can do a search for the feature codes as well as the phone commands cheat sheet. The cheat sheet has the feature codes and the context help. All right, so that's the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your users. You would click Edit Blacklist. You would click Add to create a new list, or you can click on an existing list. You need to give it a name. And then choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? Right? Anonymous calls means the call is coming into your system. It's not presenting caller ID to us for whatever reasons. By default, the system lets them come through. Right? If you turn this on, now you're blocking them. Right? So like a busy tone. Beyond that, come down here where it says add number, click add number, put +1 area code and phone number. No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Keep clicking add until you're done. Once you are done, you would click on Save. Up here at the top right, click on Back to Settings. Make sure your lists are over here on the right-hand side under Selected, which means you might have to click and drag your greetings over. But even if they're already over on the right, you need to click Update here at the bottom right. So now any phone number that are on these lists, they actually do reach your system. They'll show up in your call log as rejected. But they're not getting through any of your staff members, right? They're not going to ring on anybody's phones, right? So the inbound caller from these phone numbers just get busy tone. Call recording. Now this account has AWS enabled, so I'm seeing the AWS interface here. So I can see the calls that have come in. I can play them back. I can download them over here on the far right. All right. I can choose inbound, outbound. I can change the date range. If you're using the built-in call recording, right, that we showed up under the user features, this call recording link would take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. Right, opens up a new tab. It requires your Dash login to log in, but there you would view your recordings there, download them, play them back, etc. Monitor, plan-specific feature. You'd have to talk to our account services team about this. This allows you to see the status of your users, whether they're on a call or not. Doesn't matter what devices they're using. In fact, you can even sort by device if you wanted to. You go by all, available, and busy. Additionally, any active inbound call, each one would show up as a little blue box and showing the phone number of the person who's calling in and who among your staff they're speaking to. Parked calls, if your staff members made use of the call parking feature code, anyone parked would show up here with their phone number and their parking spot number. Reports, this will open up a new tab and take you to reports.virtualpbx.com. It has its own login information. This is an add-on feature or plan-specific feature. This allows you to create your own reports. Right, so it's an advanced version of the call logs. If you look in the show notes, there's an advanced reports demo. I would strongly suggest taking a look at that before you enable this feature, just to see what can be done. And if you're interested in making use of that. The voicemails, this lets you get to any voicemail box on the account. Right, so if you know if one is full, right, you can come here and right, you can play back the message and download over here on the far right. On the left-hand side, the little box in front, you can click on it. You have the option here first, you can move it to a different voicemail box if it's appropriate, right, or if it's in the wrong voicemail box, or you can change its status. Integration AWS, this needs to be turned on, right? So you might need to talk to our services team. But this is where you would add the information from AWS to your Dash account to link the two, right? So we would need the access key ID, secret access key, and the bucket from AWS. And then you would click on Save Changes in order to link the two together. Next up is the call center. This opens up a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com. It uses your Dash login to log in. This is for making use of call queues. If you look in the show notes, you want to take a look at the ACD Queues Pro demo, just to see what they're like. Basically, if you've called your bank, for instance, and then you heard the message, please wait while your call is answered by the next available agent, you've been in a call queue as a caller. Again, as I mentioned under groups, right, queues are an advanced version of groups. It allows agents to mark themselves away or to log in and out of the queue. They have different routing options like round robin, which will equalize out over time, or most idle, who would offer the call to the person who's been waiting the longest, among other things. Dynamic caller ID, add-on feature or plan specific. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID of your VoIP phones. So you would click on create new rule. I'm gonna just look at existing rules. So you need to give a name. Then you choose a phone number on your account. And then in this case, I said, whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code phone number from their VoIP phones, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to the 702 number I selected. Right, so they don't do anything other than dial the 702 number. Then I would click on Save Changes. The other option here is I created a feature code. So now my staff members have to dial *951, then the area code and phone number they're reaching out to. When they do so, the system is changing the outbound caller ID to the 916 number I selected here. Faxes is your fax manager. So it starts off on inbound faxes. You choose your fax box, shows you the faxes that have come into your system. You can download the file. If you put a check mark here, you can delete the file from the account, and if you have too many, etc. The outbound fax tab, right? Choose your fax box, shows the faxes that are sent out from your account. You see this failed one here? When you see a failure here, that means we had a problem with the other phone number. Right? So when you mouse over, I get this message here saying timed out, waiting for initial communication. So that tells me this was a valid phone number, but we didn't get fax tones when we connected, i.e. we either entered in the wrong phone number or we were given the wrong phone number. Now, if we go to the email to fax logs, if you see an entry here, that means the system had a problem processing the request, right? So we never actually dialed the other number. This page shows you the email addresses involved, so you make sure it's not someone sending from their personal email address instead of their work email address, and they had the proper format. But you also have this eyeball icon here to the far right. And you see here, we had an error converting an attachment. That just means the system had a problem with the PDF. Normally, we suggest resaving the file and seeing if that will let it go through. If you have the option to like download as PDF or export as PDF, you might want to try those instead of saving as a PDF and see if that will go through. There's basically some variants allowed within the PDF format. So that's why that's a possibility. Sometimes we also see no valid attachment here, which means, like the person forgot to add an attachment, or they sent something that wasn't a PDF or TIFF. Number manager, this takes you to your spare number page. I'll skip down here to the bottom. SMS registration. This is the process that you have to go through in order to make use of the virtual text feature. If you just signed up with us or you haven't made use of SMS at all, you're going to want to talk to our account services team, right? Account services at virtualpbx.com. They're going to want to go over the SMS registration process with you, let you know what to expect. This obviously also tries to let you know what to expect, but it's just a better experience when you talk to our account services team. You would come here to start the registration under the second tab and click on the register button, and then the register status would let you know the status of your registration. There is a one-time setup fee, although I don't remember what that is, so I do apologize about that. But our services team would know, so again, you can talk to them about that. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. If you look in the show notes, there's the Introduction to Zapier webinar, which covers some of webhooks, but this is basically how you would link your Dash account to other software. This is some level of programming. So for experienced programmers, I'm sure this is easy peasy. For someone like me who hardly ever does any kind of programming, this is almost like a foreign language. You basically would fill out the form and create the webhook, and then on the other side, link it to the other software. You can talk to our sales team about this, as they would also have some information. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done to link Dash to other software. Like we've linked it to like Slack, for instance, among other things, Google Sheets, etc. Okay, user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal. As an admin, you're not able to access anyone else's user portal. However, you get to all the information anyway. User portal always defaults to your own voicemail box, right? So over here on the right, users can play back, they can download the file, they can click on the box in the front to change its status. The call history tab, they can see their own call history. Again, they can go back further in time and see their call history. Now, this is not nearly as detailed as the call logs, right? So it just brief snapshot of their calls. The fax tab only works for users that have their own fax box, but they would see their fax history. Contact list, this is everything within your Dash account, right? So it makes it easier for your staff to transfer calls. They can also see the feature codes here as well. They're not able to add to this. They can basically change the order that they view things. And that's really about all they can do in terms of adjusting this. The conference tab, this is only going to show up for or work for users that have their own, that you've enabled the conference feature on. Over here on the right, this is where your users would update the moderator and participant PIN numbers. These two PIN numbers should be different. Then your users can choose to have people join a conference muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones. When they're in a conference, right? So they'd be on the phone. They can also come to the user portal here. On the plus icon, they can invite other Dash users to their conference. They can lock the conference so no one else can join, mute everybody, unmute everybody, and end the conference call. Also, while on a conference, each moderator and participant has their own little boxes here. This allows moderators to mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person if necessary. And then the settings and devices tab, right here, this is where your users can enable call forwarding themselves, right? They would just click on the little box here, put +1 area code and phone number, and then save. And now I am call forwarding, right? Once I don't need to call forward anymore, I uncheck it and click Save Changes. And that is everything. I haven't seen any questions pop up, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Sorry this took so long today. I apologize for that. But I thank you for your time.